Okay, yep, right. Top 5 sub 500cc modern classic motorcycles, and I want to explain how I've come about this list. This is not just my choice that I've strung together to make a video. This is your choice. What I actually did is I used the AI facility here on YouTube Studio to search all of my comments for the full 9 years that this channel's been running to establish the top 5 modern classic motorcycles under 500cc. Now, it searched through a total of 240,415 viewers' comments to identify 5 models, but it wasn't just looking for the model name, it was actually looking for the context of the comment to establish whether somebody thought it was a good bike or a bad bike or a bike that was on their wish list. You know what I mean. It was looking at the entire context of all of those comments. And these are opinions expressed by people all over the world. It's not just confined to one region. About as a complete an analysis as you could possibly hope for. So, just to make it clear, these are viewers' opinions, not mine. Mine would have been slightly different, but these are viewers' opinions. Now, at the end of the video, there is going to be one honourable mention, a bike that I would have had on the list, but unfortunately it hasn't made the list, but I want to mention it anyway. And this list runs in descending order, starting at number 5, the least popular, and moving down to number 1, the most popular. So, starting off with number 5. The Royal Enfield Guerrilla 450. Now, this is actually a bike I've never ridden, although I am very familiar with the 450cc water-cooled single-cylinder engine. According to the AI analysis, this bike is prized by people that want a sort of a modern classic, but they want something with more modern handling characteristics and performance. There's no doubt about it, Royal Enfield's 450cc motor definitely delivers that. Although, personally, I found it lacked soul, but grafted onto a Harris Performance-designed road chassis, competent braking, and a sportier sit-up and beg riding position, it would seem that this bike is more of a winner than I personally gave it credit for. It has an excellent reputation for reliability and quality, with a distinct lack of niggles and complaints from owners. A competent and stylish all-rounder. The Guerrilla 450 is sort of centred around a different era of modern classic motorcycles, more along the lines of the 1970s and 1980s. Taking a step away from the sort of cliche that has become modern classics in recent years of bikes styled upon motorcycles from the 1940s, 50s and 60s. And as you're going to see as this list progresses, that is a common theme in this top 5 list. The modern classic niche of bikes based on the 1970s and 1980s has well and truly come of age. Position number 4, we have the Triumph 400 series of motorcycles. Now remember, this is a computer analysis of comments from owners and would-be owners who seem to be driven to ownership of this bike mainly by its price point and the opportunity to get into what is perceived as a premium heritage brand at an affordable price, which is exactly the market that this motorcycle is aimed at, along with very positive reviews from the legacy motorcycle media and YouTube channels. On paper, it's a direct competitor to the Guerrilla 450 and the honourable mention that will be coming up at the end of this video, with a 400cc single-cylinder water-cooled engine pumping out round about 40 brake horsepower. Handling is considered to be a bit on the lively side compared to the Guerrilla, but the main sort of complaints seem to be around general fit, finish and quality, with rust issues on the frame and fasteners being a major issue for a lot of owners. along with complaints that the paint chips very easily. Now, other issues are leaky fork seals, general reliability, including electrical problems and a propensity to stall at low speeds, although I believe that has been sorted out with a software update. There are also numerous complaints of vibration at low and high speed, which seems to bother some owners and often leads to premature trade-ins for something else. Now, ownership in general just seems to be a bit of a mixed bag with the Triumph, as I initially thought it would be as a Triumph owner myself. The design is unmistakably Triumph, but some owners love it and some don't. However, it did make it to number 4 on this top 5 list. Now, number 3, and this was a complete shock to me. It's another bike that personally I've never ridden, I've never made a video on it, and I don't think I've ever even mentioned it in a video. That is the Honda CL500. Now, it takes its designation from the smaller CL models of the 1960s, but actually it's a completely different bike. I remember it caught my attention when I was buying my GB350S last year. And I thought it was a lovely looking bike, but I couldn't quite make my mind up whether it was a modern classic or not. Obviously, viewers consider that it is. And I'm not going to argue with that. Now, it's the biggest bike out of this top 5. I think it's a 472cc twin-cylinder water-cooled engine, pumping out around about 47 brake horsepower, so it's still A2 licence compliant. I think it's almost certainly the most capable of all of the bikes in this top 5 list, including the honourable mention, and it's praised for everything that Honda is famous for: reliability, good performance and quality. The bike is sort of organised in a sort of a scrambler configuration, although I think we should just consider that to be styling. It is very much a road oriented bike. Now, I do know that this had been mentioned in comments over the years, but I didn't realise the sheer volume of comments and requests for me to actually test one and do a review on this channel. According to the AI analysis that was carried out, this is the most requested review bike that I've ever had on the channel. Yet I quite simply hadn't cottoned on to that fact. The CL500 seems to be one of those bikes that's just, it's a sleeper. It's often overlooked by people, yet in the comments it's been praised for its everyday practicality, combined with real-world performance, along with its excellent ability as a long-distance tourer with or without pillion. And I've got to admit, the response that I've got from this AI analysis has now really piqued my interest. The first time I saw it, it did strike me that it was very reminiscent of motorcycles from the 1980s, but I couldn't and I still can't quite put my finger on what it is, but it's definitely got a sort of modern classic presence about it. And all I can say is thank you to all of those people that have mentioned it for bringing it to my attention and waking me up. Now, I don't think number 2 is going to be a surprise to anybody. It is, of course, the Royal Enfield Classic 350. I own one myself. It is a fantastic motorcycle, and if anything, it epitomises the entire modern classic genre more than any other motorcycle. The styling of this bike is loosely based on a 1934 Royal Enfield Bullet from the old Redditch days, but with a lot of hidden concessions to modernity. It's not the best handling bike out of the top 5, nor is it the best in performance stakes. Between 20 and 21 brake horsepower so far, this is the lowest powered bike in the list, but this is a sign of the times, isn't it? It's number 2 in the top 5, yet it's one of the lowest powered bikes in the top 5. I think that says a lot about what modern motorcyclists want from their modern classic motorcycles these days. The Classic isn't about performance, it's about making a statement to the world. It's a bike that grabs the attention of everybody wherever you park it. You always come back to a gaggle of bystanders looking at the bike and asking you all about it. Now, this bike's lack of performance belies its actual capabilities. This is an extremely capable motorcycle. It's fantastic in towns or on the open road. It sips fuel, and it's even very accomplished touring with a pillion on board. She pulls admiring glances wherever you go. I've even had people seek me out when I was way away from the bike, asking me if the Royal Enfield parked over there was mine. It's a cheap bike to run, and the added bonus is that it's cheap and easy to maintain at home if you're that way inclined, with servicing, tappet adjustment, etc. all being perfectly within the realms of your average DIY mechanic. The Royal Enfield Classic 350 is a hard bike to beat in the modern classic sector, but it has been beaten, which brings us on to number 1. Once again, the Honda GB350S is a bike that I actually put my money down, and it sits next to my Classic 350 in my garage. Honda introduced the GB350S to the UK and Europe early last year, 2025. Due to customer demand, it wasn't something they planned on doing. They gave in to requests and demand from customers, and the bike hit the showroom floor running, so to speak. For the first half of 2025, in fact right up until July 25, it wiped the showroom floor with the competition as far as sales were concerned, and it was only the fact that Honda actually ran out of stock in July that the sales of the bike faltered. That repeated again this year, starting around about Christmas when new stocks came in, and orders flooding in at the beginning of 2026. This bike has been a best seller in the UK and Europe. As far as power and performance go, on paper it's just 1 horsepower up on the 350 offerings from Royal Enfield, although I can honestly say you don't really notice it. Top speed is better, but handling is sublime. In the handling department, this bike runs rings round all 4 of its Royal Enfield 350 competitors. Build quality is substantially better than the Royal Enfield's, yet price-wise it sits comfortably sort of in the middle of the Royal Enfield 350 models, with only the Bullet and the Classic being more expensive. The other 2 models, the Meteor and the Hunter, being a little bit cheaper. The Honda GB350 is a genuine modern classic, leaning very heavily on Honda's own heritage from the 1970s and 1980s, although I, like others, it looks familiar to me, but I can't quite pin what model it looks like. Now that makes it sound like a bit of a wishy-washy, generic Honda modern classic, but actually I think that's the magic trick that Honda have managed to pull off with this bike, because back in the 70s or 80s, whether you owned a CD, a CB or a Super Dream, somehow this bike still feels familiar to you, and that's what's driven its sales success. There are so many people that were riding bikes back when I started riding in the 70s and 80s that it's just that nostalgic feel that a modern classic is designed to bring to the table. And in this particular sort of 1970s, 1980s niche of modern classic motorcycles, Honda is the only one that can truly draw on its own heritage, with Royal Enfield, Triumph and even BSA having to sort of pretend, because really they weren't making bikes back then. They don't have a genuine model lineup to draw on. The GB350 is without a doubt a dependable, practical and well accomplished all-rounder, and it's even good for touring with a pillion. The only issue with it at the moment, and it is a big issue for a lot of people, is they're very difficult to get your hands on. Demand is by far outstripping supply. And now for that honourable mention. Now, I vowed when I was making this video that it was going to be a brutally honest viewer's perspective of the top 5 sub 500cc modern classic motorcycles. Unfortunately, the BSA Bantam 350 didn't make it as far as viewers are concerned. And I respect that, because this is your top 5, not mine. But I just felt I had to mention the Bantam. I had it for 2 weeks last year, and it is a phenomenal motorcycle. So much so that if I was making this list based on my opinions, it would have hit the number 2 spot. With its water-cooled single-cylinder engine, this bike is an absolute delight to ride. As far as the 350s go, it's the most powerful of the models mentioned here, with a power output of just under 30 brake horsepower, and you can really feel it. Yet cc wise, it's the smallest of all 5 that have been previously mentioned, with cubic capacity of only 334 cc's, but it's also one of the cheapest at only £3,500, or at least that was the price when I tested the bike last year. You know, it's just got so much going for it. And on top of that, the handling, way out manoeuvres all of the Royal Enfield 350s, coming only a slight second to the Honda. I'm not sure why, but BSA seems to have a bit of a cloud over its head where motorcyclists are concerned. But I tell you what, they really know how to make a proper rider's bike. So if none of the previous bikes appeal to you, or maybe they're a bit out of your price range, you really should consider the Bantam. I think it's a cracking little bike. Now, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this and my other videos, and in doing so, helping to support this channel. I really do appreciate it. I'd also appreciate it if you would leave a like, hit the hype button if it's available to you, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. There are other ways that you can help me out via my Patreon page or PayPal donations, or you can use the super thanks button down below. Not essential, but much appreciated. I am of course going to be back on Friday, so until then, please ride safely, and I'll see you soon.